All right, so running a little bit late, but without further ado, I want to introduce our last speaker, and I really hope certainly everybody online sticks with us through the end, because when we talk about, things we can do right here and now to take care of ourselves, no matter whether it's cancer, cardiac, behavioral health, there's obviously things we can do. We just talked a little bit about our fitness, and the other thing was probably one of the big challenges is, how do we eat healthy? And certainly, how do we eat healthy in the firehouse and maintain that camaraderie of sitting around the kitchen table and making meals? In 2019 at FDIC, I was approached by a couple friends from DC Fire Department about something that was going on in DC. And when you work in national advocacy, you get a lot of people coming to you and say, well, somebody's doing this, somebody's doing that. And we were approached about a project that was going on in DC called Food on the Stove. And it was really impressive, what this individual initiated in DC. And what's even more impressive is where it's gone since 2019 into this year. So with that, I want to introduce Firefighter Jonathan Tate from the DC Fire Department to talk about Food on the Stove.
How you all doing today? Super excited to be here. Promise won't be before you long. It's an honor and a blessing to be before you. I want to thank First Responder Center of Excellence for having me. I want to thank the Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center for hosting this event. And just thank you. They even gave me this little clicker thing. I don't know who invited me here, whose idea was to have me, but depending on how it goes, you can either thank or blame Ed, because his name was on the email. As you know, cancer has continued to claim the lives of numerous firefighters across the country. I'm a second-generation firefighter. My father joined DCFD in 1956 and retired as a deputy fire chief in 1989. Unfortunately, after multiple heart attacks and being diagnosed with cancer, he died 9 years into his retirement. In response to my father's death and the health crisis that plagues firefighters, I started a nonprofit organization called Food on the Stove. We provide tools and resources to help firefighters live a healthier lifestyle through enhanced nutrition and exercise. And before I get started with my presentation, I want to show you a short documentary that we produced on heart disease in the fire service that focused on Lieutenant Kevin McCrae. He was the 100th member to die in the line of duty in DC Fire and EMS. On May 6, 2015, he passed away after being called on a box to a high-rise building. And I want to show you that now.
All right, so this memorial is basically a brief story about what happened on the May 6, 2015, the death day of my dad. It's cool, man. I mean, like I said, everything happens for a reason. My dad being a fireman growing up was like something that I always wanted to tell somebody, like, hey, my dad's a fireman, dad's a fireman. A lot of kids growing up, they get excited when they see fire trucks. Like, been there, done that.
He was always the quiet leader. He knew ever since he was like 5 that he wanted to be a fireman. My brother caught him out back lighting matches. Kevin got punished.
He wasn't only your supervisor, he was also a friend and somebody you could look up to, a mentor. When he walked in a room, it lit everybody up and everybody was, upbeat. If you ever were having a bad day, he could definitely brighten your day up instantaneously just by talking to you.
He inspired others to be the best they can be.
Everyone loved him. Yeah. My biggest fear was what happened May 6th when they knocked on the door. I knew immediately something had happened to him. That was my biggest fear.
When DC Fire Engine 6 approached the high-rise building, they saw this, deadly flames bursting from the windows on the top 2 floors. From his 24 years of experience, Fire Lieutenant Kevin McRae knew the building at 1337th Street Northwest. Without hesitation, he and other firefighters ran to those top floors to save lives. But the effort would cost Kevin McRae his own.
We knocked the fire down. We were checking for extension, ventilating, hydraulic ventilating out the window, getting all the smoke out. Kevin asked, said, "Hey, Brady and Plumber, come on out to the hallway." He said, "I need a break." So we said, "All right, well, let's go downstairs, get some water, catch our breath." And as soon as I sat down, the wagon driver from 12 Engine ran by me and grabbed our aid bag and our oxygen. He said, "Fireman down." And I looked to my right, and Lieutenant McRae was down in the stairwell. Pretty much our whole world changed. I mean,
it was the longest day of my life. So I just was in disbelief. I won't believe it. The official cause of my dad's death was a heart attack.
And before that, I lost my nephew. He was a fireman. He had a heart attack. James.
We are impacted by that loss of life. Their lives are changed forever. We don't want people's lives changed forever. So what can we do?
The number one cause of death in firefighters for job-related deaths is heart disease. And I believe the direct cause of that is food, the food that we put in our bodies.
it's taking too long for that to sink in. It's a huge culture change. It's a culture shock for us all. And we need to be the leaders with promoting health and fitness.
We as a country, we as an organization, we as people have not done a great job with diets, with preparing people, teaching people how to do things.
We can't control the hazardous environments we go in, the stress of the job, but we can control the food that we put in our bodies.
We have Mr. Tate and his group going into fire stations, teaching firefighters the basics, that all the things you have around you are good if you use them the right way. So if you understand portion control, if you understand how to put it together so you feel your body, that is what draws me to that.
Evan was 44 years old when he passed. He was so young. And I would not wish that on anyone. Not anyone. Because he had a whole life ahead of him.
All too often, we can ignore a heart-related death on the fire ground because it's not a fire-related death. And what we're doing for Lieutenant McRae, knowing that, like I said, a son lost his father, and now that Davon is on the job, I believe that DC Fire and EMS can take up the mantle and set the standard for every other jurisdiction to make health a priority in the fire service. I believe that if we can change the culture, change how we look at food, we can change the lives of not just firefighters, but of their families as well.
We go out, we have a lot of fun, but we're here so we can take care of our families. And so that means we need to be going home to our families.
Don't take life for granted. I lost a lot of people growing up to heart diseases or other causes of death, and just make the best of the life that you live.
Now, you're probably asking yourself, why did I show a video about heart disease at a cancer symposium? It's because I believe that the same approach that Food on the Stove is taken to heart disease, we can apply it to cancer as well, and that's through a healthier diet. Today, I want to share with you 3 key factors that I believe are critical in making diet, nutrition, and exercise more than just a program in our departments. We want to make it part of the culture. By implementing these components, I believe we can make food and nutrition agents of change to help extinguish cancer and heart disease from the fire service. The first component I want to share with you today is create. Firefighting is like no other job in the world. Besides the military, there's not another job that requires employees to rely on each other as much to make it back home to our families. While we have done a good job of removing the threat of fire and other hazards that potentially harm us, we could do more to pay attention to attack these other threats to our health. I once heard that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I left my desk job to become a firefighter. One of the reasons is because every day I get to see something different. I get to impact people. I get to be in my community. But yet, I get 2 to 3 page emails all the time about health and wellness. And that leads me to believe that long emails are ineffective. You're sending me emails, but I'm not at a desk anymore. I'm out on the fire truck. I'm riding around in my community. Now, of course, this is my opinion, but most of my colleagues probably will agree because they're not sitting at a computer desk all day. And for those who we do want to reach, they're not reading long emails. They're not even interested in what we have to say most of the time. This should lead us, I think we should serve it to them in smaller doses so that it's more digestible. And this should lead us to be creative in our approach to a shared diet, nutrition, and exercise. The second component I want to share with you today is communicate. Anne Morrow Lindbergh said that good communication is just as stimulating as black coffee and just as hard to sleep after. I'm not a big coffee drinker, but by a show of hands, how many had coffee this morning? How many drink coffee every morning? So I'm gonna assume it's pretty effective to get your day started. So let's look at what this quote actually means as far in terms of health and wellness. This means that when it comes to messaging around nutrition and exercise, what we say must be impactful and memorable. What we say and how we say it should invoke change and lead to action. Our words are powerful. This is why language is so important. Let me be clear though. I'm not referring to dialect, but I'm referring to diction, how we present it, meaning our goal should be to be understood, not just to be heard. It's imperative that we communicate the message of health and wellness in a simple way that everyone understands. So for example, one of the things that I often speak to, that I share with my coworkers and my colleagues, I give them the example or the analogy of, if you had a Lamborghini, what type of fuel would you put into it? Anybody? Premium, right? The best fuel. So your body, food is fuel for us, but yet we put the worst type of fuel in our bodies. This is supposed to carry us throughout the day, and as firefighters working 24-hour shifts, we have to fuel our bodies properly. Yet we treat our car better than we treat our own bodies. I don't know why that is. And maybe that's something that we need to contemplate more and more. The third and last component that I have for you today is cultivate. I ain't get to use this little beam yet. Make me seem like I know what I'm talking about. So cultivate. Cultivation is just as important as the seeds you sow. Without it, the garden you desire to grow will produce nothing. Imagine planting a seed and never watering it. What's likely to happen? That is what happens all too often regarding health and wellness in the fire service. We put out information, but do not follow up to make sure it has taken a root. While being creative and communicating your message are important factors of creating an impactful health and wellness program in your department, cultivation is what creates culture. Programs are good, but how do we make healthy eating and exercise the culture in the fire service? It's my humble opinion that culture is created from within. When a seed is planted, it is what is within that seed that produces something that can be seen. While outside consultants, experts, and organizations like Food on the Stove are valuable, we are meant to be resources, supplements to what your department should already be doing. The goal is to creatively share and communicate the message of health and wellness, and then identify those within your apartments that can cultivate the land. We should be on the outside being the resource and being your help and whatever you need. In closing, one of the points I want to share that did not make it onto my slide is that whatever you feed is going to grow, including our stomachs, right? I say this to encourage you to keep sharing the information and bringing awareness to the threat of cancer and other ailments in our department. I know at times it can seem like the message is falling on deaf ears, which can be discouraging. I've hit that brick wall a few times, like, why am I doing this? Nobody cares about what I have to say. Nobody's doing anything. But I'm reminded of a Bible scripture that says, let us not be weary, become weary in well-doing. We shall reap a harvest if we faint not. So I hope today that what I share with you today you can take some away from it, and that we can together create a healthier fire service. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. It was such an amazing example of what we call community-based participatory research, whether you knew it or not. So I just want to give you kudos and applaud you for everything you've done. So some of the questions, being around the fire service long enough, we know that when you go to a fire station, everyone's talking about the latest fad diet or diet that's going around, whether it's keto, whether it's intermittent fasting. Was that something that came up when you were working with the members in your department? Or do they ask you questions about some of those diets, and how did you respond?
Yeah, we get a ton of diet questions and things like that. But I think for us, it's more about, like I mentioned, culture. It's health and wellness should be a lifestyle change. It shouldn't be something that diets can tend to be fads. We can tend to try to lose weight, and once we reach that goal, we kind of fall by the wayside. But actually becoming healthier has to be a lifestyle. Always, it's not always that the external dictates what's going in. People who are slim and trim end up with cancer as well. People who are maybe a little over obese may live forever. So we want healthier living to become a lifestyle.
Right. And so I'm going to ask you the same question that was posed to the physical activity gentleman. So what were some of the pushbacks that came from the department or the members of the department when you were trying to implement healthier eating?
O2X, let me first say, O2X does an amazing job. They're in DC Fire and EMS, and I'm happy that we get to piggyback off some of the work that they do. My approach was a little bit different because Food on the Stove is a 501c3 nonprofit. So what we do is simply give, right? O2X has the hard job of actually getting them up off the couch and getting them out of the firehouse and working out a little bit. But for us, we simply want to give meals. We are looking to put healthier meals on firehouse tables. So one of the things, nobody's turning down a free meal. We started a program called Farm to Firehouse, which is a meal delivery service similar to HelloFresh or Blue Apron, where we package up the meals into a box. We give you a recipe and we drop it off at your firehouse and allow you to cook it for yourself. So our first recipe was Peruvian chicken, roasted sweet potatoes and coleslaw, 660 calorie meal, and the firehouse loved it. So now we have taken that and we've made an app out of it that allows it, and this is totally free to the fire department. So for every $10 we raise, it goes to the protein, produce, and packaging of the meal. So it wasn't as hard for me as it was for O2X. Everybody's taking free food.
Yeah. Who comes up with these recipes?
So we work with a lot of chefs, and we work with a nutritionist to make sure that it meets the criteria and the standard. And we've been able to partner with a lot of well-known chefs that create these recipes for us.
That's awesome. I think so many departments would be interested in this program. Besides your own department, how many other departments in the area have adopted it?
So we're working with, we will be working with Prince George's County. We'll be introducing our beta testing, our Farm to Firehouse program with Prince George's County. We'll be working with Arlington and Alexandria. And so the last 2 years, we did our turkey drive, which allowed us to deliver 99 turkeys on Thanksgiving to every department in DC, Prince George's County, Arlington, and Alexandria.
That's amazing. Does anyone have any questions from the audience? Dr. Gotti?
When you When you implement health promotion programs in the community, one of the rookie mistakes is to link health promotion and performance to sports and athletics. Some people will, for example, try to promote a particular sport as a way of staying fit. In the community, that not only doesn't work, it discourages a lot of people from making the effort. How is that different in the fire service? Do people respond to the idea of the firefighter as being equivalent to an athlete, or is that a turnoff for them?
I think to piggyback off of what Paul from O2X said, I believe that we are athletes. They use the term tactical athletes. We put our bodies through so much stress. And oftentimes it's longer than what a football player will play. Football players span from anywhere from 8 to 12 years. We have people who are 55 years old, still jumping on and off the engine, running into burning buildings. So I think I think if we can get firefighters to see themselves differently, they'll begin to eat differently, they'll begin to work out differently, take better care of themselves. Because I do think if we see ourselves differently, it makes a big difference.
Great. Anyone else?
They broke out a big old gallon of ice cream or something. Do you fine them? You make them pay a little fee?
I wish I could, right? But our approach is never to take away what you're eating, right? Our thing is everything in moderation. My job isn't to tell you what you can and can't eat. Just as a firefighter, you can't eat like that every day. You can't eat Chick-fil-A. Your job depends so much on your heart operating properly that you can't do the same thing that the person at the desk does. And that goes back into his question that we have to look at ourselves differently. I think all too often being a big part of the community and being in the community, we see ourselves the same as some of the other people, but we're different. We're the same in a lot of ways, but our job is totally different. And we have to take care of ourselves if we want to make it past retirement. A big reason that I started Food on the Stove, as I shared, was that my dad died 9 years after he retired. The strongest man I knew became the weakest man that I knew. Couldn't get himself off the toilet. He'll call me to help him. And when I became a firefighter, I saw how my brothers and sisters in the fire service were eating. And I said, I want to do something to change that. Potentially, this is the reason that my father probably was so sick. Every day with sausage gravy. And we're eating the same things every day now. Sausage gravy, BLTs for lunch. I mean, I'm getting porked out. I mean, where's the salad? So I think we have to look at food differently as fuel for our bodies. And there's no off season for us. For an athlete, there's an off season. For us, every day a box can drop. And we have to be prepared.
Sam?
I was going to ask what Director House said was, what does dessert look like in this thing? But you already took that. So I will say this, though. I actually think this is a, wow, that works. This is a great idea, honestly. And I just retired in fire service myself, and it is so hard to cook healthy. So to have something prepared and brought to the station, not have to shop for it, and know that it's been put together with, and I see it's $10 a meal, which isn't bad at all. How much? What's your? They
don't pay for it though.
There
it's
you
all
go.
Donations.
It's donated completely. What's your spread on the DC Fire Department? How many stations are actually taking advantage of this, and how are you handling it? Is it everybody, or is it there's a certain percentage?
When our app rolls out, they'll be able to order. We only deliver on Fridays. Once the app rolls out, they order between Sunday and Tuesday. We deliver directly to their firehouse on Fridays. We upload the staffing into our app. We know exactly how many people. We always buffer for an extra 3 people in case for an overtime body or just some extra food. But since we have been delivering food to DC so much, we already know the staffing of that. So that's pretty much how it works. And then we'll go from the department to the department to do that. And we were funded by Giant, United Healthcare. And just before I came down here, I was notified that we will be sponsored by Amazon as well.
Amazing. Any other questions from the audience? Nope.
I think that would be good. I think with building this, I've been doing food on the stove for the last 3 or 4 years, and honestly, it's just me doing it, right? So I'm wearing many hats. I'm still working, not 24-hour shifts. I've been off for about a year now, but I'm still working every day. But food on the stove is also a full-time job as well. But I think a big piece for us is just growing it organically, right? So many ideas I have and so many things that I want to do that they can't all happen at once. And for me, it's just about taking the time to really fulfill this passion that I have that's so deep-rooted in me, because I think more so than just saving a firefighter's life, my dad died when I was 15. I'm fighting for that firefighter's family as well, because I know how that feels to lose a parent at 15 when my dad passed from cancer. So I think if we can reach a firefighter, we can potentially help their family and also help that young child, that son or that daughter, have to deal with the same pain that I had to deal with coming up.
Well, thank you again so much for presenting. This was a great way to end our first day. This was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
So I'm going to invite Ed back up to the stage to close us up. Before that, I do have one important announcement. Someone lost their cell phone. So if you want to check your pockets. So if you check and you notice you don't have a phone, we have it.
So we won't prolong this day because I know everybody's getting ready to go eat their salads at dinner. Or if not, Jonathan will help you with what to order tonight. But I'll save kind of some of my closing remarks today for tomorrow morning. We have time. But what a great day. Starting with some advocacy, talking about research and certainly the importance of maintaining that so we can truly learn the facts. And at the end, doing things that we can do right now. And I encourage you on the tables, if you're here in person, to look at the annual report from Food on the Stove that explains that initiative a little more. For those that are virtual, we'll post an electronic version at the end of the conference. But I just hats off to Jonathan and his group for what they've been doing. He's the greatest, I think, compliment in the fire service is when your brother and sister firefighters compliment for what you do. And I can't tell you how many times I retired from Fairfax County, Virginia. I have a lot of friends on the job in DC, and what he's doing there is great. And hopefully we can replicate that, or they can replicate that in other parts of the country. So with that, we'll conclude day one. Eat healthy, behave tonight, and we'll see everybody in the morning. Thank you.